back in line, you dog! On your feet! Get them going!
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Cross Examinations. I am your host, Mike S. Miller. And today we are going through a new list. This is called Defending 10 Atheist Arguments. I found the last list of 101 problems with the Bible to be sort of weak sauce. And so I wanted to go to some, I was looking around for someone with some better arguments. Which means I actually had to read some of them first. So this time I did, and I'll get into that in a moment. We are also doing Rise and Fall in about a half an hour. That's the daily devotional. We're going through 2 Samuel chapter 9 today. That will begin roughly in a half an hour. But until then, oh my gosh, Arlene says it's 1 a.m. I do apologize for the lateness of today's episode because I've been, I don't want to say distracted. I was supposed to go to a breakfast/lunch meeting with my friend Shibtoshi and Rdub, who's the CFO of Squid Grow. And then things happened and it got pushed back, and then it was supposed to be a later lunch, and then I had to pick up the kids, and then I had to do the team meeting with the Squid Grow team meeting, and then the Squid Grow werewolf meeting, and then we ended up doing dinner instead, and then I got back from dinner and I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night, I haven't done cross-examinations yet. So here we are. It is now 10:02 and we're getting into it now. What's up, Drake? Hello, it's Friday here. Well, happy Friday to you wherever you are. I mean, it's 2 hours to Friday here already. But boy, some of these cross examinations are picking up some steam in the after streaming. I mean, there's only 6 people watching right now. Granted, normally I do this in the early afternoon or even before noon, and so this is kind of an off schedule showing, but everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens. All things work for good to those who love God and are the called according to his purposes. Romans 8:28. Dennis Pruitt says aloha. Well, aloha to you, Arlene. 7 now. 7. Thanks for joining us, Dennis. Let me pop over. I just kind of wanted to get into this because really, when I started cross-examinations, I started it as an apologetics show. All those years ago, I started cross-examinations as like, I wanted to model myself after like the Bible Answer Man and these kind of guys who take on all comers with whatever questions you got. And it sort of shifted over the time that I was doing the show and became something different, more of a sort of a what's going on in Christianity in the world today and that kind of stuff. And then eventually when my channel got shut down because YouTube doesn't like people like me, well, then it went on hiatus for a really long time. I brought it back in order to do the Rise and Fall. And obviously I wanted to, got back into the fellowship thing, but then I found that list, and that, I don't know, I think it's kind of brought me back to the roots of what this show is supposed to be about, which is an apologetics show with a nice Bible study at the end. So we're going to go through, and I thought it was so funny. This website is called Patheos, but its subtitle here is Cross-Examined. Hey-oh, how funny is that? It's called Cross-Examined, and this is under the non-religious Defending 10 Atheist Arguments side. I don't know what this illustration of a hand holding pink slime is supposed to be, but Whatever. Let's get into the. I'm going to read his whole entire first argument thing, and then I'll respond. So this is going to be a good one. That's how a recent red pen logic video from Tim Barnett begins. His confidence was in response to Brienne Doyle's brief list of atheist arguments, 10 ways to prove God doesn't exist. Barnett gives, maybe I should go through that. Barnett gives the entire list a grade of 0 out of 10. He found a fallacy in each one, and he encouraged fellow apologist Mike Winger to respond as well. I've also added a rebuttal from Who Is Like You Ministries to the Christian side of the argument. Sounds like this should be a tough challenge. Let's take a closer look. Brienne Doyle's atheist arguments are in blue. I've put the Christian responses in green to avoid clutter. I have avoided labeling most sources. 1. We must be taught that God exists. Atheist argument. The fact that a human being has to tell you about the existence of your God proves there is no God. That's fallacious. We would be born with knowledge of its existence. Okay, I'm going to read through. Christian response. First, here's the first fallacy, a non sequitur where the conclusion doesn't follow from the premise. That's pretty accurate. My response. Most of the Christian responses come from Tim Barnett. Okay. Sorry if you're a Tim Barnett fan, but I have no idea who Tim Barnett is. So whatever I say, it won't be coming from Tim Barnett. He was eager to find logical fallacies in each atheist argument, but we'll see that he's living in a glass house. Also, Christian response. Research has shown that humans are predisposed to believe in supernatural agency behind the world. God belief will crop up in humans unless indoctrination pushes it out. So by your own standard, this is actually evidence for God. To wit, this guy says, that's evidence for evolution, not God. A rustling in the bushes could be the wind, or it could be a jaguar, seeing agency, even if none is there, if there is none, and running away would have been a protective instinct. It's a small jump to go from seeing agency behind a sound in the bushes to agency behind drought, illness, and lightning. The plausible naturalistic explanation trumps the supernatural explanation. And the Christian thinks that indoctrination is a point in their favor? Exclamation point? Remember the Jesuit maxim, give me a child until the age of 7, and I will give you the man. Christianity continues only because it indoctrinates impressionable children. Reverse this by making Christianity an adults-only activity like voting, driving, or military service, and see how long Christianity lasts. I don't know. I came to Christ when I was in my mid-20s, so I was raised agnostic. I don't think that's a valid argument. Does it exist, or do we just not know about it? Wait, is this another question? No, that's question 1. It goes all the way. Sheesh, that's a long one. Okay, I worry about picking this apart while I'm going through it because he's giving both sides of the argument. So let me read through it, and then maybe I'll just do some picking apart. Yeah, Arlene says, I was raised atheist. Yeah, it's a really bad argument. It's like, here's the thing. If you raised everyone with an open mind and taught them critical thinking, neither indoctrinating them toward or against old earth, young earth, metaphysical, non-metaphysical, all of the different subspectrums of all of the belief systems and worldviews. If you gave children absolute choice and understanding that all things are possible, which is the opposite of what science does and was the opposite of what atheism does. Atheists try to force the non-metaphysical worldview on people through claiming that science proves that this all could have happened through mere random chance and time, which to me is the greatest foolishness ever. But If you gave people that and you let them live until they're 21 years old, I mean, if you thought all things were possible and then you weighed the evidence, that's why I became a young earth creationist, because it didn't matter to me. Once I became a Christian, it didn't matter to me because I was a theistic evolutionist. So I believed all the evolutionary stuff because it had been force fed me through my entire 2 decades of life as a human being in America, raised by an agnostic father. So in the public school system, I absolutely 100%, 1000% believed in evolution. It wasn't until I removed the bias that I had a dog in the fight, right? I mean, that I no longer had a dog in the fight. So once I removed the bias that all things are possible, could God have used evolution? This was my thinking then. Could God have used evolution? Yes, that I could fit that into the scripture. I could kind of force fit it, but I could fit it into the scripture. I was a theistic evolutionist. Could God have created the world in 6 real-time days, and then, you know, follow the biblical timeline from there? Yes, because I didn't have a dog in the fight. I could look at the evidence with an unbiased eye. Here's the thing. I didn't have an unbiased eye while I was being taught evolution throughout all my 20-something years, right? I mean, it's in everything. It's in all of our media. It's a constant. I mean, even here, he's saying that's evidence for evolution. It's like, why are you jumping to that as your argument against God? It's not, well, I mean, it is, because evolution is their God. They require God, evolution to be real, because it's their excuse to get away from the fact that abiogenesis is simply impossible. You cannot get life from not life. If it's inorganic, you cannot mash it up in a soup and add some lightning and it becomes a living thing. That is simply beyond the pale, beyond the mathematical requirements that remove it from the realm of the ridiculous. You can't get life from not life. It's a non-starter. You can't get evolution without life. Frankly, evolution doesn't work anyways, but that's a whole nother topic, right? But so you can't get a universe from nothing. If you believe all of the Big Bang and all that stuff and everything that goes back to the singularity, wherein what all of the mass of the universe was in a point the size of the tip of a pin. Well, where the hell did that come from? And what caused that to explode? How could you condense all the matter in the entire known universe to the head of a pin and then have that explode in a random, meaningless, uncaused explosion? Because where's your cause for this explosion? What caused the pin of matter, or the nothing that existed before the pin of matter, to explode and become a perfectly balanced, perfectly orchestrated universe? Oh no, that makes way more sense than believing in the metaphysical. Even just believing that there was a deist God, a God who doesn't even care, he was just on a lark. One day it was like, oh, you know what? I think I'll make a universe. Boo! Even removing that, you have to have some cause, some intelligence that would spark the creation of the universe, that could spark the creation of life, not just random, meaningless chance. And if you're a materialist atheist, that is your only other option, that everything you know and love, everything you've experienced in your life, everything in the entire cosmos, including time, matter, energy, quantum physics, mathematics, the laws of the universe, it's all random, meaningless chance. I'm sorry, but if you're a rational human being, you realize that no design, no poetry, no rhyme, No reason. Nothing derives from random, meaningless chance. It just doesn't happen. Sound waves, light waves. You lost me. I lean not on my own understanding quite a bit. Good point. You can't be unbiased about something if you care about it, and you probably won't do the research needful to master a thing you don't care about. True. My great ex-bajillion grandpa was not a monkey, just saying. True. Amy says, if I throw a bunch of paper and a bottle of ink into the air, how many times would I have to do that before a book would fall down? That would make more sense than life arising out of non-life. Literally. And it wouldn't have to just be a book. It'd have to be like Romeo and Juliet. You'd probably have a better chance of doing that and getting Romeo and Juliet in the actual script of William Shakespeare than life arising from non-life. No, but we had billions of years. I don't care if you had billions of years. I don't care if you had trillions of years. Do you know why they keep extending the quote-unquote known age of the universe? Because they keep realizing that there's not enough time for evolution to actually have happened. That's why. A few decades ago, it was not that long. And now it's 18 billion years. And the Earth is now, 6, 7, 8 billion years old? Because they're just trying to, they need more time. They need the magic pixie dust of time to make evolution a thing. All right, let me get back to this because, see, this is where I squirrel. I might not get through the first one of these questions. All right. Does it exist or do we just not know about it? Let's say, okay, the green is the Christian response. Let's say that no one knew of the existence of God because no one was told about it. That means nothing when it comes to the actual existence of a divine being. Ignorance of something does not equal non-existence. I mean, true statement. Response. And if the supernatural existed but left us alone, its existence would be irrelevant to anyone's life here on earth. Christianity's problem is its claim that God exists and is eager for relationship. Surely such a God could make his existence obvious. Imagine a post-apocalyptic world where all evidence of science and Christianity were destroyed. These societies that emerged from the rubble would eventually recreate the same the same science we have today. They would likely recreate religions of some sort, but they wouldn't recreate Christianity. Christianity can't be deduced from nature. Right, because it's beyond nature. What? Okay, let me go. I'm sorry if I'm going to end up parsing this whole thing. Surely such a God could make his existence obvious. Okay. This person clearly, obviously doesn't believe in the Bible, but he clearly hasn't read the freaking Bible. Because if you understand the message of the Bible, God's different dispensations have proven that an absolute knowledge of God is not, I don't know if the word is ideal, but he's gone through different dispensations of of levels of evidence of his being, and it doesn't matter because we're human. He walked and talked with Adam and Eve. She ate the fruit. He walked and talked with their descendants. Well, I don't know if he walked and talked with it. I know he talked with some of their descendants, but oh wait. I know he talked with, he walked with Enoch, or walked with Enoch? Anyways, there are different dispensations. The dispensation of pulling the Jews, or pulling Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldees, right? Abraham's faith, even though he was called directly by God, his faith had to be built up over time, because we're not, even if we're given absolute perfect knowledge of God, it doesn't mean we're going to listen to him. My kids have perfect knowledge of me. That doesn't mean they listen to me. I like it when they do, and God likes it when we do, right? So the dispensations of how God decides to reveal himself to us have proven that it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to use an excuse that God hasn't appeared before you in physical form, shaken your hand and introduced himself and said, "I am God." Now you'll believe in me, won't you? And now you'll do everything right, won't you? No, you won't. You won't do everything right. Eve ate the fruit. Adam, knowing it was wrong to eat the fruit, followed suit because he loved Eve more than he wanted to follow God. That's kind of how it reads to me. It doesn't say that in the scripture, but Adam knew. Adam knew the rules, and Eve gave him the fruit. She was already doomed to die. So let's see. Imagine a post-apocalyptic world. Here's the thing. In a post-apocalyptic world, where you didn't have a dude named Erasmus Darwin, who he and who was his buddy in Erasmus Darwin and totally drawing a blank. But the other guy worked at the London Museum of Natural History, I think. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyways, these are the two guys that concocted evolution. Because the guy from the museum, he had all these fossils. And he decided one day to take these short, sort of horse-like looking things and sort of line them up to a full-sized horse, like all these different fossils. I don't know how many he did, like 4 or 6. And he's like, "Oh, wow, these look like they become the other." It was just some guy's freaking brain fart and his desire to have an origin story that didn't require a creator. And that's where it didn't start with Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was Erasmus Darwin's grandson. He sat on grandpa's knee being filled, just like you said here, right? Give me a child until he's 9 years old or 7 years old or whatever. Fill him with your fantasies and your stories, and he'll go out and I'll show you the man. Who was the man? Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was Erasmus Darwin's grandson. He listened to the fairy tales and he believed them. And then he went and he sought out evidence that grandpa's fairy tales were true. And he found some finches with different sized beaks. And he's like, "Oh, look, this proves our grandpa was true." No, it was all a fairy tale. Evolution is a fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale created by people who wanted an out from having to believe in God, and then all these other people who wanted an out from having to believe in God, pig-piled on and just kept everything. They tried to find excuses for everything and shoehorn them into this theory. And 160 years later now? Something like that. You're all suckered into believing it because they teach it in public school. Wait, the labradoodle isn't evolution. The labradoodle is called selective breeding. And that's what survival of the species, survival, what's it called? Survival of the fittest is, right? Survival of the fittest, that's absolutely true. Selective breeding, whether it's your environment that selectively breeds your strongest survival instinct attributes, but what you're doing in that scenario, you're not creating mutations that develop the species further. You're removing genetic variabilities and narrowing the line of genetic variation. That's why if you own a pedigree dog, don't buy it green bananas, because it's only going to be alive for about 7 years, right? Pedigree dogs live like 6 to 10 years maybe, because we've bred out all the genetic variation that makes them healthy animals. And so they're beautiful and unique and peculiar to their breed, but you've bred out everything that makes it a healthy dog. A mutt is the healthiest dog you're going to find, because you got to put all that genetic variability back into a species for it to, be robust. You've skimmed off too much of the layers. Anyways, wow, look at that. I'm not even getting through all right, let's try to keep going. We all have knowledge of God, but some suppress it. Romans 1:18-20. His response: yes, the Bible says that God's attributes have been clearly perceived, but the Bible is no authority. The world is full of people of different faiths saying that their gods are the real ones. Don't quote the Bible, quote evidence. Well, the Bible is evidence, because that's a much longer argument, what you guys have heard me say before. But if anybody's new, by the way, if you're new, subscribe, like, and share. And thanks, and welcome to the party. If you're watching over on Blacklist Universe, please click the link in the pinned comment, in the pinned chat, and come on over to An Apologetic American. That's where everybody else is. That's why there's only 2 people watching over there. All right. Yeah, the Bible is evidence. It is provably, to my understanding, to my belief, written from beyond the human experience, from outside of time and space. It's a message system from beyond time and space, written, 66 books written by 40 different authors over thousands of years, with an integrated message, idioms that maintain the same throughout not just the centuries, but the people groups, and it's all Jews, but it's like there you've got shepherds, you've got fishermen, you've got kings, you've got judges and prophets, and you've got all these different people from different people groups. That's the wrong way to put it. Different stations in life, let's say that. And they all maintain the same idioms and the same throughput, and the same. It's a integrated message. It's a singular author speaking through 40 different people, right? At least 40. There might be, I don't know if I'm counting Artaxerxes, which is really interesting. Was it Artaxerxes? I think it was Artaxerxes. But anyways, let's not get too much. But we teach children about lots of things. All right, the Christian says, the atheist argument is that knowledge of God must be taught. Human beings have to tell us about the existence of all kinds of things, but that doesn't prove that those things don't exist. For example, teachers tell terrified students about fractions, but that doesn't prove there's no fractions. Bad start. The atheist argument says that if God existed, we'd be born with that knowledge. We're not born with any knowledge. Oh, I see. He's going back to the argument that God says we're born with the God. The Christian says we're born basically with an innate knowledge and understanding of God. Not. No, I wouldn't. I get the God-shaped hole, in that there is a longing for real truth, that can only be filled by God. That is the Christian perspective, right? But knowledge in the knowledge sense, we are born tabula rasa. And it is the case that pretty much the entirety of human existence in every culture on earth, besides this new upcropping of this thing called atheism, everyone on earth throughout pretty much all of history always went towards there's a God of some sort. Now, I have a personal understanding and theory that because after the Tower of Babel, everybody knew there was a God after Tower of Babel. Everybody knew about the Tower of Babel before the Tower of Babel was split up. And I mean, the people of the earth were split up. So I believe that every culture on earth has a history that goes back to the Tower of Babel. How much of it they retained or forgot, or some of them still use scapegoats. Some of them still, the early Chinese, the Shang dynasty worshipped God very much the way the Jews did in the centuries before Christ. So I think we innately we have that historical background that goes all the way back to a common event. But that's probably another topic. Does a random person look at a leaf and say, "Oh my gosh, that totally happened by random, meaningless chance"? No, the atheist evolutionist argument is the new kid on the block. It's the new kid on the block. You don't sit there and stare at the beauty of a sunset and think, "Oh wow, that's just random, meaningless chance," unless you are trained to believe that is random, meaningless chance. The atheist argument states that if God existed, we'd be born with that knowledge. Sure, that's one way that God might have done it, but it's not the only way. A better argument would say that God would be obvious from the environment he is, since that's how we learn of the existence of everyone and everything else. He is. What's it called? The golden, the thing that goes in, the golden ratio that exists in so much of nature that is mathematically like the design of beauty, right? Symmetry, the golden ratio. There's all these like mathematical, geometric truths. It's a weird way to say it. I mean, but it is, that delineate what is beautiful to the human eye, what is poetic in our vision. It's as if there's a creator who cares, who loves beautiful things, and he created a world full of beautiful things to just look at and in awe and wonder. Instead of what would this world look like if it was really made out of random, meaningless chance? I mean, it wouldn't even be as beautiful as a junkyard. All right? A junkyard still has things in it that were made with purpose and reason. That's not even random, meaningless chance, but that's about as close to the beauty you'd see in a universe that was truly made from no purpose, meaning, or rhyme, or reason, or anything. Random, meaningless chance never produces beauty. It just doesn't. I mean, you could splash paint on a thing randomly, but you can't really, because you're still doing it with purpose. And try to find some sort of beauty in it. I don't know, man. Jackson Pollock, that was terrible. The Christian response compares knowledge of God with knowledge of fractions. Every educated adult understands that fractions exist. And I mean, that was a dumb argument. Dumb argument to make. So I'm just going to ignore that. Man, we're already up for half an hour and I haven't even gotten to the second one. All right, so bad indeed. Be careful with those charges of fallacious thinking. Evaluation. The atheist argument is the argument from God's hiddenness, which I think is the most powerful argument against Christianity. I'll give an evaluation of the strength of the argument at the end of each, adding in any improvements from the critique. I give this one a 10 out of 10. It's if you're an atheist and you're watching this, please make a better argument in the comments section. Please explain to me how random, meaningless chance, and you can't get around it if you're an atheist materialist. Everything you see and hear and experience in life is the cause of random, meaningless chance. Explain to me how that works in your brain, because it doesn't work in a rational, reasonable created universe. All right. All right. I think I'm going to wrap. We'll get to number 2. God belief is geography tomorrow. I haven't read that one yet, but it just sounds it sounds kind of weird. But yeah, so that's number 1 of 10. If it takes me this long, I might be doing this for 10 days. So I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to get on to the Bible study, which is, where did I put it? Where did I put it? Where's my pants? Oh my gosh, did I just completely close it? I think I did. All right, let me open up King James Version, King James Bible online. Just keep it rolling. Keep rolling. I can't. I got to do. I try to keep these things to about an hour because I don't want to just bore people with endless live streams. And someone sees a live stream that's an hour, they're more likely to click on it after the fact. So let's go to 2 Samuel. Whoa. What was that? Did it just blink out for everybody else? I think we're in chapter 8. Are we in chapter 8? 9. Chapter 9. Alrighty. And now we shall present share screen. And again, if you are new here and you've made it this far, please do subscribe, like, share, join the community. And hopefully you'll join us on the live streams when they're live. That's where the fellowship happens. Or you can follow us in the link down below. I have the Discord. You can come join that. The Bible study, the Rise and Fall Bible study, the PDF is in the Discord. Just pop in there and people will tell you how to get there. God doesn't think an hour is too long. Thank you, Victor. It's not too long, but it's what I'm trying to dedicate my time to. So, all right, 2 Samuel chapter 9. And David said, "Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? And there was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, Art thou Ziba? And he said, Thy servant is he. And the king said, Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet." Okay. This is interesting because the only guy Ziba mentions is Mephibosheth, right? Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son who was crippled. But Saul had other male grandchildren, but they came from his daughters and not from Jonathan. So I just find that a little bit interesting. It's like he's got other kids, but this Ziba guy only points out the heir to the throne, because Mephibosheth is the heir to the throne through Jonathan, but obviously David is the king now. So just a little interesting thing I that poked out in my brain, so I thought I'd mention it here. All right. And the king said unto him, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodebar, Lone Star. Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, from Lodebar. Is it Lodebar? Lodebar? I think it's Lodebar or something like that. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, Behold thy servant. And David said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. Which is interesting again. Yeah, David loved Jonathan. It's true, but he didn't ask about Jonathan. He asked about the descendants of Saul. And Ziba's like, yeah, Jonathan had a kid. Doesn't mention anybody else. And then David gives Mephibosheth all of Saul's inheritance. Never mind the other grandkids, because he wasn't told about them, apparently. And David said, I will show thee kindness. Da, 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 da. And he bowed himself and said, what is thy servant, that thou shouldst look upon such a dead dog as I am? And remember, he was crippled. His legs were useless. So that's probably why. His legs or his feet. I'm not really sure which. But he probably had some sort of lower spinal injury. Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertain to Saul and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. So Mephibosheth now has 35 servants. 36, count Ziba. Then said Ziba unto the king, according to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. Now keep in mind, this isn't like he just threw everybody into slavery. You think about it, these were Saul's servants. Saul was dead, Jonathan was dead, everybody was gone. So in a sort of conquer all mentality, David would have given all of Saul's stuff to like one of his right-hand men. Like that's kind of the way they did things, like especially through the Middle Ages, right? It's like, oh, you did something for me, here, let me steal this land from this other guy and I'll give you his castle and all his servants, right? He gave it to Jonathan's son, brought him out of exile essentially, and then the servants of Saul, rather than being essentially made destitute, because they were servants of Saul, so they served his household. They probably lived with him in his household. Their servants lived in the household. Saul was a king, so he obviously had a manner befit a king. So what David has essentially done here is given them all, not just employment, but a place to live. And yeah, I'm reading a little bit of that into it, but it's just like common sense to me from the way kings have dealt with. I listen to a lot of Real Crusades history, and I understand a lot of the way kings deal with vanquished kings. And it is unique in the space of a king and how he's dealing with the vanquished king, because he loved Jonathan, he honored Saul, and so through this he is then bequeathing all of what was Saul's to Mephibosheth. Then said Ziba unto the king, according to all that my lord hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, I already read that. And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. Hey, Micah. My son's name is Micah. And all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt. Okay, so obviously Mephibosheth had a son, which means whatever his back injury was, it didn't keep him from siring a son. So that's just a little information there. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet. So Mephibosheth, while he could not obviously take the throne, and obviously he was lame. Not like, dude, that dude's lame. He had a broken back, so he wouldn't have been able to really be much of a king in the kingly sense. People, especially the way that people, they chose Saul because he was 7 feet tall and handsome and strong and all that stuff. And then here's Mephibosheth, he's like FDR without the blanket. But anyways, I wonder if he had a wife too. He probably did. I would guess he did. Arlene says, interesting observation. While watching late night Christian ministry begging shows, I saw that a lot of African children are born with foot deformities. I wonder if that's what lame in his feet was. No, Mephibosheth, when they were escaping, gosh, I forget who they were escaping, but his handmaid like dropped him and broke him. And I would assume, because both of his feet are lame, I would assume that is a lower back injury, like broke his spine. Running from Absalom. Was he running from Absalom? Okay. So yeah, no, it was an injury that caused him to be lame. And oddly enough, he becomes the only one of Saul's grandchildren who isn't murdered later on in the story, but I'll save that for another time. Let's get to Rise and Fall. Wait, no, not Absalom. That's later. Okay, you're not helping, Nolan. You're not helping at all. That's yes, I don't remember who they were running from, but yeah, it was somebody. All right, so this is 2 Samuel chapter 9. Godly Character Benefits Us by Grant and Jillian Carrere. Like, subscribe, share if you have not done so already. This channel is growing, oddly enough. People seem to like me talking about Bible stuff, which is awesome because I love talking about Bible stuff. I don't know if you knew that about me. Punching Panda says, sorry, reading is hard for a panda. It was later Basalm. Okay, that doesn't work either. All right. Excuse me while I wet my whistle. Victor says, God isn't going to approve this big cut up stream. Should be 4 hours. Sorry. What's my excuse? I have no excuse. I'm not pretending to know everything. I'm just pretending to be a guy who reads stuff on the interwebs. All right. King David had many wonderful attributes, which was why he was so highly regarded by God. One of those attributes was that he kept his word. Another was his loyalty. Both of these attributes are on display in this chapter. When David was being pursued by Saul, David and Saul's son Jonathan had covenanted together to honor not only each other, but also their descendants. Years had passed, and David had no knowledge of the existence of any descendants of Jonathan. He may have assumed that none were living and that he had no further obligation, but instead, David was determined to be sure. His intention to keep his promise was so strong that he extended his search to include anyone who was not just Jonathan's descendant, but also of Saul. This shows another remarkable trait in David. I didn't catch that, but that's an interesting take. He did not hold a grudge against Saul, in spite of how badly Saul had treated him. We can contrast David's behavior with that of another king, Joash. Joash came to the throne at the age of 7 and initially did very well, following the Lord wholeheartedly. This was largely due to the kindness and influence of the priest Jehoiada. In fact, Joash owed his very life to Jehoiada's wife, who rescued him as an infant when Athaliah attempted to kill all the royal family. Had Joash not lived, the Davidic line would have been extinguished. Jehoiada and his wife kept him hidden until the time was right to present him as the rightful ruler of Israel. Gosh, there's so many great stories in here that have been echoed throughout literature throughout the centuries, right? Wesley Curry II, hello, are you new here? Welcome to the Fellowship of Cross-Examinations. Please like, subscribe, and share. Welcome. If you're, where are you watching? If you're watching on Blacklist Universe, there's a pinned chat in the chat up here if you're watching on TV or on your computer. The rest of the fellowship is watching over on Unapologetic American, so please do click over there and come on over. I am Wesley Lawrence Curry II. I am in Hunting, West Virginia. Oops, caps. Hello, Wesley. In your mouth and all mouths is proof that Jesus is God. 2 healed teeth. 2 healed teeth in my mouth. That you prefer your imaginative lies is your problem. I'm not sure what's going on. He's with us, Mike. All right, fine. Good. All right, let me get through this. I might actually have some time at the end so we can chat some more in the chat. Sadly, after the death of Jehoiada, Joash forsook the Lord. One day, the Spirit of God came on the son of Jehoiada, and he rebuked King Joash for his transgressions. This was a word from God, and he had responded appropriately. God may well have extended mercy to Joash, but he didn't want to hear it. So, in the manner of ungodly kings, he had the man stoned to death. What a terrible thing to do! He owed literally everything he had to the kindness of Jehoiada, and yet he killed his son, not for a crime, but because he didn't like what he said. David's remembrance of Jonathan is such a contrast compared to how Joash remembered Jehoiada. It is little wonder that the end of these two men was so different. David is honored to this very day and became the standard by which every successive king of Judah was measured. On the other hand, Joash was not even buried in the tombs of the kings. David's is the kind of character that we need to have if, like him, we are to be people who truly walk with God. All right. There we go. Here is Drake and Panda. So here is the party. Oh, here's where. Oh, Punching Pandas. Were you on the other channel, you silly person? There's still one person watching over on Blacklist Universe. Please make your way to Unapologetic American so that we can all fellowship together. Thank you very much. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you are new. Or, I mean, you can like and share even if you're not new. That's okay too. All right, question number 1. The mercy of God is very great. Can you think of examples in the Bible where God did not follow through with the judgment that he had pronounced because people repented? Well, yeah, Nineveh comes immediately to mind. The whole story of Jonah. Jonah clearly not wanting the people of Nineveh to repent, but knowing God's ways are merciful and loving, had to go through a whole lot of rigmarole and the intestines of a large fish. All right. Question number 2. For a time, Joash followed the Lord. What was the essential difference between his walk with God and that of David, resulting in their endings being so different? I would say repentance. David obviously fell off the wagon. He's a human like the rest of us, and he fell off the wagon and he committed egregious sins that if he were not king, he probably would have gotten executed for. But he repented. He had a heart of repentance when he was confronted by the sin and what it really meant. The example of the lamb that was taken. Yeah, he repented and he accepted his punishment by God, right? He was given options for punishment and he tried to take the punishment that would be the least painful for the people of Israel. So yeah, repentance, bottom line. Question number 3, are there circumstances under which we are released from keeping our word? I would say the greater sin paradigm or paradox or para-circumstances. If you are, and I have this issue with Jephthah, the judge, Jephthah, who made a vow to God that he would sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house if he gave him victory in a battle, comes home, first thing comes out of his house is his daughter. And he keeps his word to the Lord and kills his daughter, which is way more egregious than breaking your word. I mean, how many times has God said, don't freaking give your children, don't sacrifice your children, right? But the judges were not a perfect bunch. Really. If you want to read the story of Jephthah, it's grim. But yeah, I would say that in that circumstance, you don't keep your word because the fact that you made a promise that you didn't know the circumstances of would cause you to a greater sin. Yes. So the greater sin paradigm, paradox, parapants, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the greater sin thing, always keep from doing the greater sin. And if it's killing your own daughter, yeah. Anyways, the daily prayer is, Dear Lord, my heart's desire is to truly know you. Would you reveal to me areas in my life that need to be changed in order to be more like you, and strengthen me to make those changes? Amen. Good prayer, Grant. I like it. All right, that is day 39 in the can. We have 5 minutes left, so let's say hi and see what Wesley Curry, the new guy, is saying. Let me hear. Are you professing to be Christian or atheist? And do you know what it means that Jesus appeared to you, said, tell the vision, and when you denied it, he said to you, no time to talk, Allah. Okay, I'm a Bible-believing, born-again Christian. Jesus has not yet appeared to me in a vision. So I don't know what you're talking about. Nineveh told the vision that Jesus told you to tell. Okay, that's not confusing. The vision of the foot cut off that did not bleed, orange red in the middle of the lower, dark green leaves on the palm trees on the right, the two creatures behind the square pit. The vision is from Jesus. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Could we maybe not talk in code? Wesley says, I am the second written in Leviticus and Zephaniah. I am chosen by Jesus, given his dove, as is written in Isaiah 22. I am the little book and the little scroll that was not written on paper. Okay. Well, welcome to the fellowship, Wesley. Welcome, Vision Wesley. That's very interesting, but I really don't know how to respond to it because you're not quite speaking my language, if you know what I mean. Amy says, I think your language is hard to follow, Curry. If you want to talk about the Bible, awesome, but I can't speak too much else. Yeah. Arlene says, oh my. And Punching Panda says, is this AI? No, I don't think that's AI. AI tends to be a little easier to understand. I'm not quite sure what he's trying to say. But that said, any other questions? Let's see, we got a couple minutes left. There's a fella who's trying to have at me in the comments section on one of the other videos. It's very interesting. Okay, Wesley says, Satan can easily attack you. And he did. 2 times specifically, because you did not have the armor of Jesus. How dare you say I don't have the armor of Jesus? I hope I have the armor of Jesus. Right? What is that? The helmet of salvation, the shield of faith, the sword of the Spirit, the breastplate of righteousness. Did you know that in the Old Testament, the armor of God also includes the cloak of vengeance and what is it? The something of zealotry. The armor of God in the Old Testament is like more hardcore than the armor of God in the New Testament, because you got the cloak of vengeance and the shoes of zealotry or something like that. Let me see if I can find it real quick before we bag out. Cloak of vengeance in Old Testament. Oh, no. It's the robe of vengeance and the cloak of divine passion, which is zealotry. Yeah, and that's in Isaiah 59:17. Yeah, vengeance for clothing. These are different interpretations. Vengeance for clothing and zeal as a cloak. And also the helmet of salvation and breastplate of righteousness. So, yeah. Old Testament armor of God is awesome. Lovely. Hey, Lovely says, I did not know that. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's a nice set, right? So if you're going to do like a character that wears the armor of God, you should legit put the whole thing on with the robe of vengeance and the cloak of... All right, let's see. I got 4 seconds left, but let's see what Wesley says here. The other time Satan spoke in all your minds was March 31st, 2020. Satan pulled a fire down from heaven saying, don't tell the vision. And out of the mouth of the dragon, I saw an unclean spirit like a frog. This is one of Ethan's, guys. I agree. The unclean spirit like a frog. Most definitely. And anyways, that's the hour, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Do like, subscribe, share. Again, if you are new. If you're not new, then welcome back to the fellowship. We'll be back tomorrow with part 2 of Christianity on Trial. And we'll try to get through the second bit. I don't know. A little faster? Maybe? Possibly. I don't know. Anyways, love to you all. God bless us, everyone. I'll see you next time. I messed up my outro. I will see you on the next exciting episode of Cross Examinations.
Back in line, you dog! On your feet! Get them going!